G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. This time we are going to be having a look at another past Hero of the Month. Specifically, we're going to take a look at the 5-star legendary blue heroine, Aviana, the Falcon Force Commander. So Aviana was introduced to the game as the featured hero of the month in May 2023. Today, however, she can only be summoned from the Manor of Legends portal, which rolls around once every 4 weeks. The portal does have some fairly horrendous odds, which we can discuss now. So essentially, there is a 1% chance to get one of the 2 featured heroes, and only a 0.9% chance of getting a non-featured hero. So Aviana is a featured hero at the moment in February 2024. She's not going to be featured again until Feb 2025, based on a 1-year turnaround period, but who knows if that's going to be the case, because SGG are being a bit weird with their featured heroes at the moment. In terms of those portal odds, how they actually play out in a real situation, if you were to do 100 summons in this portal, you would have a 63.4% probability that you would jag either of the 2 featured heroes of the month. You would then have a 59.5% probability to get any one of the many unfeatured heroes in this portal. If you were to start targeting a specific hero, however, the odds do drop off significantly, because you've not got a 1% chance, you've now got a 0.5% chance of getting a specific featured hero of the month. And similarly, the non-featured ones go way out the window, because there's 33 non-featured heroes in this portal at the moment. So what that means is that if you were to do those same 100 summons, you would have only a 39.5% probability of getting a specific hero of the month that is featured, and the odds drop off massively down to a 2.7% probability that you would get a specific unfeatured hero of the month, like for example Visor or Nima in here. So not great odds at all. In terms of her artwork, I'm just going to flip over here and we can take a look at this. So thank you to Fearless Phantom and Fudge 'em Up Bill for passing this along. I don't have Aviana, so thanks for passing this along. So yeah, we can see we've got the Falcon. Wouldn't be a Falcon Force Commander without having a Falcon on there. She's also got some of those Falcon iconography going on. And naturally, we've got the waist-high boots going on there. And yeah, some nice tiebacks on her cape to that falcon feathers and such. But yeah, that is her artwork. Feel free to pause it and review further if you so choose. Yeah. Alright, let's head back over to the portal. So normally this is where I talk about the family bonus, but unfortunately, being a hero of the month, Aviana has no family bonus at the time of this review. Maybe sometime down the track they'll add them for the heroes of the month, but at this point in time, there is nothing. For Aviana's stats though, she does come in with 717 attack, 717 defense, and 1,501 HP. So there is pretty much no skewing of these stats. It is basically dead straight up the middle in terms of her stat distribution. Her charge speed is set to 44, which is average speed and requires 11 tiles to charge, or 6 ghosted tiles. The speed break needs to get up to 50 charge speed, so you need to give a +6 speed weapon to her. That is possible using either of the 2 blue speed guns in the game, both of which give you +9. So your options there are the Regalizer Magnum and the Ice Breath Saw. A double break needs to get up to +14, which is obviously not achievable, even when combining a speed gun with the class node. So because of that, the class emblem charge node is of completely lack of relevance. It has no relevance at all in this one. On the topic of her class, she is an engineer class hero, which grants her the chance to summon a turret minion after receiving damage from any source. The turret minion itself, it has 15% HP and 18% attack, both of which are inherited from Aviana. I do like this talent. The minion itself, it's pretty beefy, and it can be triggered from literally any damage source, including skills, tiles, ailments, other minions, whatever you name it, it does damage, and it has the chance to proc the turret minion into existence. The downside is that it can only proc once a turn, so even if you take 16 instances of damage, there still will only be 1 turret minion that can spawn. By way of an actual emblem path, bear with me while I jump over and we can have a look at that. So I don't have a great option for this, but we'll take a look at 8-bit here, seeing as he's roughly following the right path, so ignore that. So the path that I would suggest doing for Aviana is I would be going a defense and HP. Prioritizing HP over defense though, I will point out, and that's mainly to make her turret minion even better. So you can see that in the first direction we picked the side with HP, then we've gone defense and HP as the secondary path. Next up, it's a little bit of a hard one because this one here is absolutely completely useless, particularly even on her where she's generating armor. She doesn't generate health. So what I would actually be inclined to do here is actually pick up 2 useful nodes. So we'd pick up the attack node. Even though it's not hugely relevant, it is 2 useful nodes. We then go back to picking HP nodes wherever we can, and I would finish right there on plus 18. The 19 and 20 nodes aren't of much use, so 19 offers a choice between defense and crit bonus. Maybe you might pick up the 19th node going defense, but you definitely won't need the speed node because it doesn't contribute anything. So yeah, as I said, we'd probably go a path that looks like this to the end and maybe stop at plus 19. That is a much less nice drawing than the first one I'd done. But yeah, pause it if you need to, and we can continue onwards. Oops. Yep, there we go. So, no, don't do this to me. I hate that force tutorial. I've used it. I know what I'm doing. Okay, anyway. To her skill again. So her skill is titled Fury of the Falcon, and at level 10 skill and 44 charge speed, it will add 185 armor to all allies. All allies will then get a plus 49% attack buff for 3 turns, as well as a plus 49% defense buff for 3 turns. It will then also apply an ailment reflect buff to all allies for 3 turns, which is an effect that cannot be cleared. So normally we'd look at damage. There is no damage on Aviana. Instead, we can have a look at her healing or pseudo-healing that's going on there. So we will still break it down in a similar fashion to damage, but instead of doing it on a damage per tile basis, we're going to look at it on a healing per tile. So you can see on this chart here, Aviana comes in at a heal per tile of 84 HP points per tile, which is not fantastic, right? It comes in number 9 of the 11 blue healers and pseudo healers. It's not fantastic. There are heroes that do that affect 3 allies, which are better than Aviana, which is a little bit sad considering one of them is a 4-star hero in Sideburn. So yeah, it's not great. Her slow charge speed doesn't help matters, but realistically, that quantity of armor is just so small. Yeah, if we were to convert it to a percentage heal, Aviana's 185 armor is just 12.3% of her base HP. Comparatively, Anastasia, who's the top of this list, right? She comes in with a combined total healing of 37% of Aviana's HP. So, you know, Anastasia is slower, and she's a lot older than Aviana, but yeah, just a much, much better healer than Aviana is. If we were to continue expanding that list out and we didn't just include blue ones, but we looked at all of the available healers and pseudo healers in the 4 and 5 star arenas, Aviana ranks at number 36 of the 52 available 4 and 5 star healing options. So really not a great healer in the scheme of things. Yeah. So yeah, while the instant armor, it's not going to do a huge amount, it will help a little bit for your team's survival. But yeah, I just don't see it fitting the bill for her to be an out-and-out healer for your team. You'd still be looking at having another healer that's actually going to do the heal role, and Aviana can be like a trim healer, so to speak. Yeah, moving on from that to the other aspects of her skill, because this is where it starts getting a lot better. The second and the third lines of her skill is the application of a plus 49% attack and defense buff to all allies. Both of these buffs, they are percentage based, which is great because it means that it will continue to scale as there is further power creep, you know, when you include emblems, weapon bonuses, all of that sort of thing. So it is much better than the static form that we see on Umbra, unfortunately. There isn't too much more that I can say about this stuff. I may as well touch on it. So we can translate it back to roughly what the damage increase and reduction would be when they're in play. So because of how the damage calculation actually executes, the attack buff, so that 49% attack buff, will increase your damage output by roughly 71%, while the defense buff will decrease the damage taken by roughly 42%. So even though it says a 49% defense improvement, it is a 42% damage reduction, and similarly it's a 49% attack buff, but it's a 71% damage increase, which is kind of cool. One interesting thing though with all of this is if you were to convert it over to ailments, so instead of it being an attack buff and a defense buff for your team, if it was an attack ailment and a defense ailment to all enemies, it'd actually be a lot more effective. So the increased damage that you deal with a defense buff, so if you had a minus 49% defense buff on all enemies, it would actually be a 260% improvement. A 160% added damage, so 260% of the base damage would be dealt to the enemy heroes. Similarly, the damage received would actually be reduced by 60%. So these numbers are compared to the 71% attack improvement and the 42% damage reduction. So the damage increase is 71% actual on Aviana, as compared to 160% if it was a defense ailment. And similarly, if it was an attack ailment, it would be a 60% damage reduction as compared to the 42% damage reduction that Aviana actually gives. I don't know, just a little bit interesting. It's just weird how the damage calculation works. But yeah, ailments are generally speaking better than buffs in terms of your team survival and damage output, which is, yeah, a little bit interesting. The final part of Aviana's skill is this provision of a status ailment reflection shield to all allies for 3 turns. It is actually a really great effect because it can go a long way towards disrupting a team's effectiveness or your enemy team's effectiveness. Not only does it prevent your own heroes from gaining those ailments, but it actively applies them to the other team. It is of particular effect when you are using, like, against charge control ailments, such as insanity, charge block, silences, all that kind of thing. Highly effective for that, but also it's great for reversing things like damage over time ailments like burn, bleed, poison, toxic blaze, all that kind of thing, and also stat modifiers like attack up and attack downs and that. 2 things to note with this ailment shield or ailment reflect. First thing is it can't be removed, so you're always going to get the full 3 turns of the effect, even if enemy heroes have things like demolition talent, dispels, buff stealing, all of that. It will not affect this buff. Every other buff, the attack and defense buff, they can still be removed, but the ailment shield or ailment reflect will remain. The second thing to sort of note is that this is classed as a quote-unquote defensive buff, even though it doesn't actually modify the defense stat in any way. I have talked about this previously in other damage calculations, in other review videos and discussions, but at some point in time, the definition for PuzzleCombat has changed as to what is classed as a defensive buff. Originally, it was only buffs that affected the defense stat, but that has now changed, either intentionally or unintentionally by SGG. It now includes a much larger range of effects, and the most notable ones in that list are the inclusion now of an ailment shield, like on Doodle, and ailment reflex, like we see on Aviana. So what that means is that Aviana and Giselle, and there's a couple other heroes that have this ailment reflect, they can actually be bypassed now by a hero like Sidestep or Shutdown, who list in their special skill that, quote, that their attack bypasses all defensive buffs, including counterattack. Personally, I suspect that it was a completely unintentional change somewhere along the way, and SGG took the easy route out of just making it working as intended, as they have with a number of other bugged interactions in PuzzleCombat. It's just my suspicion. There's no real proof for it, but having seen how they've approached some of the other bugged interactions, that would just be that's my takeaway from it. But anyway, overall though, I think Aviana is actually a pretty good supporting hero for your team. She will aid in your team's survival, she will aid in your team's damage output, and she will actively interrupt the enemy team's synergy and execution. So it does make her a highly versatile hero. She has uses in raid attacks, in war attacks, in raid defense, war defense teams. She's also got uses against war machines with her attack buff, because that attack buff, that percentage attack buff, will actually stack with Blunderbuss's effect. In fact, the only aspect that Aviana really falls down is that first line about the armor that she provides. If that armor was double the amount that it is, I would say it's probably perfect, and it would stand just right in that situation, but as it is right now with only 185 armor, it just misses the mark a little bit for me on that front. So, you know, her grading could be higher if she had more armor that she generates, but yeah, we don't got it, so we grade her on what we got. So in terms of her grading, I'm going to give Aviana a B+ for war and raid attacks. I think she is a very versatile hero as a supporting element in those teams. Similarly for war machines, I'm going to give her a B grade, even though she doesn't actively contribute to the war machine damage necessarily, and I would rank her higher except for the fact that you can get similar buffs from the combat boost item. So she's not really necessary, and you can bring a different hero to fill the same role. You can bring a battle item to fill the same role as what she would do on a war machine team. In eventing, I'm going to give her a C-. She's got no real benefit to events with her lack of damage, and if you want attack and defense boosts, as I said, you can just bring battle items to fill that gap. For war and raid defenses, I'm going to give her a B grade. I think she's most effective in the flank position. She can function as a tank, but her lack of impact or direct impact on the battle really doesn't make her suited to that position, in my opinion. In the tournament setting, so in Bloody Battle, I'm going to give her a B grade for attack and a B grade for defense. Slight reduction because she does lose that armor aspect of her skill, but it is only minor. Because it's a minor part of her skill. Buff boosters, I'm going to give her an A grade on attack and a B plus on defense. She does give 3 buffs to all allies, so that's 9 across 5 allies. That's 15 buffs at 20% bonus attack. That's, you know, 300% increased attack. That's pretty insane, so we'll take that. Charged attacks, I'm going to give her a B plus on attack and a B grade on defense, and that's because she does benefit from that charge attack a little bit. So overall, that comes in as a B grade for her attack and a B for her overall defense grading. And that concludes the content that I have for this review of Aviana. As always, these are just my personal opinions. I do love hearing your thoughts and feedback on these heroes, so if you've got anything you'd like to add, please jump down into the comments section and leave me a note. I love reading them and I try to respond as much as I can. If you did enjoy the video and found it to be useful, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and all of that, but most importantly, share the video around, because realistically, if this content is useful for yourself, it's also going to be useful to the people that you play with as well. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me for this review. I do hope that I will see you again soon, but until then, stay safe, good luck, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!